Maine. She tells me to press the buttons. All right. Welcome to Resistance Chicks. Michelle will be here shortly. We have so much to cover, and I was going to go live 2 nights ago on the 17th and try to talk about the squad and Donald Trump and everything. But if you guys could say some prayers. Our cousin's dog, Nemo, who I love dearly. We all love dearly. My cousin's little son, 11-year-old, loves dearly. It's his dog. He got lost from our house 2 nights ago when he got hit by a car. We have a lot of news to cover, and I hate to start with some bad news. Michelle and Kansas and I, we've been hiking in the woods while over this. Again, I think the Lost and Found post has had over 700 shares on Facebook. We have everyone looking for this dog. I've had people spend hours driving for this dog. I think he's in the woods somewhere. I don't think that he's injured badly because he took off running so fast that we couldn't catch him. He just wanted to be free for a moment. So Nemo, wherever you're at, we love you. Please come home and go to a human because you are microchipped. All right. So this week, I wanted to play some snippets from this hearing that Ted Cruz put together in the Senate. And we're going to cover Ilhan Omar. She married her brother. Some breaking news on that. There was a Trump rally in North Carolina, and after all, the Trump going back and forth with they're called the Squad now, the Socialist Squad. They're the Justice League, the Justice Democrats, but they're like the villains. I mean, just look at them. They look like villains. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what color of skin you are. But they look like villains. It's in their eyes. I have brown eyes. So there. Anyways. But I want to kind of go back a snippet here in time and talk about Ted Cruz's Google hearing, because they had this Google exec, and they all lied through their teeth. It's unbelievable. It's so obvious that they're lying. But Ted Cruz really grilled them. I don't know if anything is going to come out of this hearing, but what really got me was Prager University has been singled out and systematically demonetized, and have their videos put under parental or whatever restriction. And one of them that is under restriction, meaning there are certain people like schools and parents for their kids have YouTube on restricted mode. We have a couple of our videos that are under restricted mode. But if we were bigger, probably most of them would be, because everything we say is probably restricted, according to them. But the CNN and MSNBC can say the exact same words, the exact same stories, but they're mainstream news, so they're not restricted. So I'm going to play a couple of snippets here.
The senior leadership at Google, does it lean left or does it lean right?
Senator, senior leadership, that the whole team consists of people from a variety of different perspectives, from outside of the United States, from America.
Mr. Bitchute, you're doing something rather remarkable, which is you're managing to be less candid than Mark Zuckerberg. Mr. Zuckerberg, when he testified before this committee, admitted Silicon Valley is overwhelmingly liberal, and anyone operating in the realm of simple reality would acknowledge that. Would you agree with that?
Senator, I go back to 100,000 people, 70, 80 different countries, leadership teams pulled from all over the world. I don't think it's a matter of easy caricature. The days when we were just a Silicon Valley company.
Let's focus on some simple data. It's where data is helpful. I did an FEC analysis in 2016 of senior executives at Google, people who had the title of some form of executive, vice president, or director. Found at least 88 unique senior officials at Google who made contributions to the Hillary Clinton campaign. 88. Do you know how many senior executives at Google made contributions to the Trump campaign?
Senator, it's not my business to look into that.
Care to field a guess? 0. Goose egg. Not a single one. this ain't close, that you can't say, gosh, I don't know anything about the politics here. That is disconnected from reality. Let's look at another example. Senator Blackburn asked about the advisory council that you put together on artificial intelligence. One of the people on that advisory council was Kay Coles-James, who was the head of the Heritage Foundation.
Sir.
You worked at the Heritage Foundation,
I did.
I believe you said. Do you consider the Heritage Foundation some fringe organization?
No, Senator, I consider it a conservative organization.
So 2,500 Google employees signed a petition to have Ms. James removed from the council. And they said, quote, by appointing James to the ATEAC, Google elevates and endorses her views, implying that hers is a valid perspective worthy of inclusion in its decision-making. This is unacceptable. So you have 2,500 employees at Google saying that Ms. James, who, by the way, is an African-American woman, was one of the first women to desegregate the Richmond public schools. 2,500 Google employees saying that her view is not valid or worthy of inclusion. Google, in response to this, dissolved the entire committee. Do you understand when you see that kind of bias saying a conservative African-American woman's views are not valid and not worthy of inclusion, that the American people would say, these guys are silencing voices they disagree with?
Senator, the 2,300 amounts to something around 2% of the Google employees.
But Google acted on their recommendation.
No, Senator.
You dissolved the committee.
We did not, Senator. What happened in that situation was it was a committee that consisted of a number of members. As time progressed, a number of members of the committee, other than Ms. James, decided to fall off the committee, to withdraw from the committee.
So is it your testimony, Mr. Bitchute, because I'm finding this difficult to credit, is it your testimony that Google did not dissolve the committee because your employees were mad that anyone right of center was included?
We dissolved the committee, Senator. I think we were clear at the end of the day that it was not going to be viable to continue the council, given what we were seeing happening with other members of the committee.
In a March 18 email to at least 17 other Google employees, Google employee Liam Hopkins stated that, quote, PragerU, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro et al. Are all Nazis. This is a quote. Are using dog whistles. He further suggested that Google isolate this, quote, far-right content. Is it your judgment that Mr. Prager, Mr. Peterson, and Mr. Shapiro are Nazis?
No, Senator.
At least two of the three, Mr. Prager and Mr. Shapiro, are Orthodox Jews. Are you familiar with any Orthodox Jews who are Nazis?
No, Senator.
Is that not a horrifically offensive, nutty statement?
Senator, we have 100,000 people in the company, and there are...
So obviously he came prepared because he knew that a lot of these things had been leaked. He knew that there was going to be a lot of talk. And so he came to say, there's a bunch of people who work for us, and Google, we're just Google, and we can't be responsible for what everybody says. Now, I can see where their line of thinking is going, because they are trying to cover their tracks, and they put this conservative guy up as their token non-liberal, because obviously he said he worked at the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative-leaning organization, and that's why they picked him to spin the web of lies for. And it's almost like when you hire, unfortunately, when they used a Jewish person to go and put the other Jewish people in concentration camps. I'm not saying that it's the equivalent at all. It's just an example of when you have an informant or somebody who informs on, or within the group is what I'm saying. And that's what this guy is. He's very disingenuous. He's not honest, and he's not forthcoming, and nobody would want to be his friend.
5, 7 times the number of people work in Congress. We have...
but if the Trump administration or somebody had... The left goes crazy if you have somebody... Oh my gosh. CNN had Richard Spencer on to try to paint Trump as a racist. Trump doesn't like Richard Spencer. He's not part of his group. But, oh my gosh, because Richard Spencer changed from being some sort of crazy leftist to like this white supremacist, which is, it's a joke. He's an actor. Then somehow they get to be, they have to be commingled. Now, with this guy's just trying to say, hey, it's just what our employees. Well, what are you doing about it? Can't you just see there's a huge amount of bias? What are you doing about these employees who are signing this petition?
People who will say things on
chat
rooms and other things.
Google employees on that email. Did even one of them object to this characterization?
I don't know whether they did or not, Senator. We have a lot of these chat rooms that go on. People say things in chat rooms that certainly don't reflect the views of the company. It's not unlike many other workplaces around the world where people may say things.
You have 100,000 employees. Who is watching what all these other employees? They're the ones writing your algorithms. They're the ones deciding how to rank people. They're the ones deciding how to monetize people. And you don't have some sort of all-seeing, knowing fairness guy at the top going over your 100,000 employees. So if these guys are still employed, then they are making sure that in their job, they are, since we know that these guys are Nazis, we need to censor them. And it is happening. We know because we experience it on YouTube.
Don't reflect the views of the leadership team and management. Where it is what it is.
Do you understand why people would be skeptical of Google's judgment and the radical politics of Google's employees when you believe Orthodox Jews like Mr. Prager and Mr. Shapiro are secretly Nazis?
Again, Senator, this is a statement that was made by an individual employee on some chat room board.
Google executive Jen Janai was videoed saying that Google is, quote, training its algorithms with an eye to prevent something like 2016 from happening again. Is that what Google is working to do? And here's the quote. We're also training our algorithms like if 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different?
So, Senator, this was taken, I believe, from the Project Veritas videos where...
Okay, he's going to spin that
you're quoting here. And
questions from this committee with real numbers and specific hard data.
Okay, so there's that one. This witness, a respected academic, publicly supported Hillary Clinton in 2016. Nevertheless, he's deeply dismayed with his research showing that Google was deceptively manipulating millions to vote for her. If they do it again in 2020, he predicts they could flip 15 million votes. 15 million votes.
Who the Hillary Clinton campaign's #1 financial supporter was in the year 2016?
I think I do, but please remind me.
The #1 financial supporter of the Hillary Clinton campaign in the 2016 election was the parent company of Google, Alphabet, who was our first witness. They were her #1 financial donor, and your testimony is, through their deceptive search methods, they moved 2.6 million votes in her direction. I would think anybody, whether or not you favor one candidate or another, should be deeply dismayed about a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires having that much power over our elections to silently and deceptively shift vote outcomes.
Again, with respect, I must correct you. The 2.6 million is a rock bottom minimum. The range is between 2.6 and 10.4 million, depending on how aggressively they used the techniques that I've been studying.
He's going to repeat himself, so don't worry, I interrupted him. Donald Trump won the popular vote. Just tell yourself that. Donald Trump won the popular vote. And he probably won other states, too. He probably swept the country. What happens with Google's algorithm, there's a lot of things that this researcher goes into to explain how Google manipulates. It's insert simple search results like the autofill. Remember, Hillary Clinton emails or corruption wouldn't autofill on Google. They would on DuckDuckGo. They would on Bing. They would on, I believe, what else did I use at that time? Does Mozilla Firefox have one? Microsoft has a browser. Microsoft has a browser, and every time you, and if you did, they would autofill. But not on Google.
Yeah, for 6.5 years.
Wow. Could you just say that again, please? Just
The 2.6 million is a rock bottom minimum. The range is between 2.6 and 10.4 million votes, depending on how aggressive they were in using the techniques that I've been studying, such as the search engine manipulation effect, the search suggestion effect, the answer bot effect, and a number of others. They control these, and no one can counteract them. These are not competitive. These are tools that they have at their disposal exclusively.
if any headline comes out of this hearing, that should be it.
I think that is the most important headline, and obviously the news is not going to talk about it. These votes were definitely swayed, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit more of the questioning here from that.
Powerful and incredibly concerning. And if anyone draws news out of this hearing, I would encourage you to review very carefully Dr. Epstein's testimony. And I'd like to take a moment to make clear several things. First of all, as I understand your background, you're not a Republican and nor are you a conservative. Is that accurate?
That would be an understatement.
And indeed, you're the former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today.
Correct.
So you're a respected academic. You testified before this committee that Google's manipulation of votes gave at least 2.6 million additional votes to Hillary Clinton in the year 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I want to make sure I understand. You personally supported and voted for Hillary Clinton.
I was a very strong public supporter of Hillary Clinton, yes.
So you're not just dismayed that people voted for her, but your testimony is that Google is, through bias in search results, manipulating voters in a way they're not aware of.
On a massive scale. And what I'm saying is that I believe in democracy, I believe in the free and fair election, more than I have any kind of allegiance to a candidate or a party.
And looking forward, if I understood your testimony correctly, you said in subsequent elections, Google and Facebook and Twitter and big text manipulation could manipulate as many as 15 million votes in a subsequent election?
In 2020, if all these companies are supporting the same candidate, there are 15 million votes on the line that can be shifted without people's knowledge and without leaving a paper trail for authorities to trace.
Now, you described the Go Vote reminder, and you said it wasn't a public service announcement, but rather manipulation. Can you explain how? I'm not sure everyone followed the details of that.
Well, sure. If on Election Day in 2016, if Mark Zuckerberg, for example, had chosen to send out a Go Vote reminder, say just to Democrats, and no one would have known if he had done this, that would have given that day an additional at least 450,000 votes to Democrats. And we know this without doubt because of Facebook's own published data, because they did an experiment that they didn't tell anyone about during the 2010 election. They published it in 2012. It had 60 million Facebook users involved. They sent out a Go Vote reminder, and they got something like 360,000 more people to get off their sofas and go vote, who otherwise would have stayed home. The point is, I don't think that Mr. Zuckerberg sent out that reminder in 2016. I think he was overconfident. I think Google was overconfident. All these companies were. I don't think he sent that out. Without monitoring systems in place, we'll never know what these companies are doing. But the point is, in 2018, I'm sure they were more aggressive. We have lots of data to support that. And in 2020, you can bet that all of these companies are going to go all out. And the methods that they're using are invisible, they're subliminal, they're more powerful than most any effects I've ever seen in the behavioral sciences, and I've been in the behavioral sciences for almost 40 years.
You know, our Democratic colleagues on this committee often talk about what they view as the pernicious effect of big money and big corporate dollars. What you are testifying to is that a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires and giant corporations are able to spend millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars collectively, massively influencing the results of elections. And there's no accountability. You said we don't know. We have no way of knowing if Google or Facebook or Twitter sends it to Democrats or Republicans, or how they bias it, because it's a black box with no transparency or accountability whatsoever. Am I understanding you correctly?
Senator, with respect, I must correct you.
Please.
If Mark Zuckerberg chooses to send out a go vote reminder just to Democrats on Election Day, that doesn't cost him a dime.
Fair enough. Do you happen to know who the Hillary Clinton campaign's #1 financial supporter was in the year 2016?
I think I do, but please remind me.
Whether or not you favor one candidate or another should be deeply dismayed about a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires having that much power over our elections to silently and deceptively shift vote outcomes.
Again, with respect, I must correct you. The 2.6 million is a rock. 0.6 million is a rock effect, the answer bot effect, and a number of others. They control these, and no one can counteract them. These are not competitive. These are tools that they have at their disposal exclusively.
If any headline comes out of this hearing, that should be it. Senator Hirona.
I have just one clarifying question for...
Okay, so there was a lot more to this hearing. I think, okay, that's a shifting of the votes. I'm going to go ahead and play this about... Marsha Blackburn was there, and she was questioning Dennis Prager about censorship. Now, there was a snippet where one of the Google representatives said that Prager University's video had been put under this adult advisory because of the 10 Commandments. And I wanted to make a video right there because it said the word murder in the 10 Commandments. And Prager University tweeted out, as in thou shalt not murder. And here I am saying the word right now. Do you know how many mainstream media newscasts are on the news talking about war in Syria or terrorism or robbery or, knife fights, gun fights or whatever, people getting killed, and they're not under any parental advisory? Somebody went after Prager University's videos to try to find anything they could, and they convinced this Google executive to lie straight through his teeth and say, we put a parental advisory in the 10 Commandments because of the word murder. And then he's like, thou shalt not. It's like, do you expect me to believe you? Because that is so disingenuous. I just want to I want to laugh in that person's face and be, you're lying to me. I'm not. This isn't a joke. This isn't funny. That's absurd.
Mr. Prager, I've got just a couple of questions before we move on, and I want to go through these quickly. How did Google and YouTube's censorship harm your ability to communicate your message online?
Well, it's fairly evident if things cannot be seen by any family that restricts pornography and violence, if no school can see it, by definition, if it's on the restricted list, if no library can show it, that's a very serious restriction, especially given that our target audience is young people. So they're deprived.
Exactly. And so when I'm talking about these restrictions, those are the same restrictions that YouTube and Google put on pornography. And it's the same for, I didn't mean to turn you off. I just meant to stop you. It's the same censorship that they do for pornography and things like that. And it's for schools and things like that, and libraries.
if things cannot be seen by any family that restricts pornography and violence, if no school can see it, by definition, if it's on the restricted list, if no library can show it, that's a very serious restriction, especially given that our target audience is young people. So they're depriving us of the very people that we most want to touch with our message. So that's pretty dramatic. And
so how did your viewership go down after they restricted you?
Well, I can't give you a number, obviously. There's no way of knowing what number of people are in homes that have already have filters and don't even therefore know about a video because it just can't be accessed. We know that many teachers try to show our videos in classes, and they can do it on their own, but they can't do it through the school.
What explanation has Google given you for the restrictions?
Well, you used the great word frustration. We have gotten none. And actually, it's almost unbelievable because if you look at the list, and like the Ten Commandments being a perfect example of how people will go, you got to be kidding. Well, I finally found out today, you did. We all heard. The representative of Google told us why the Ten Commandments video was taken down, because it contains murder. So, as I said, we have a solution. We'll put up one without "thou shalt not murder" in it. But it is that's so absurd as to be hilarious. This will be something I will replay on my radio show for years. That is the level of absurdity. I feel like I'm in a Monty Python skit here when he says something like that. The only possible explanation for all of this is they don't like PragerU because we're a very, very influential conservative voice touching a lot of lives. There is no other explanation.
It's absolutely. So I meant to. Michelle actually hadn't heard about that. The Google executive was asked why are Prager University's videos, so many of them under a parental restriction, and that means that libraries can't access them. Homes that filter pornography cannot access them, and schools can't access them.
So the homes that filter pornography are going to be people that are probably more wholesome and the people that would want to see these things.
You're right. And so the guy tried to say it's only 25%, or it's less than 25% of his videos. Well, that's a lot of videos because he has a lot of videos. And I would say that maybe one or, if they said it was a one-off or a two-off, but it's not just a one or a two-off. And maybe if they were talking about ISIS or Syria or whatever, but what my point was before you got here was that the mainstream media, none of them are under those parental restrictions.
Right.
And they talk about ISIS and Syria and murder and gang violence and all kinds of things. And literally, he says the word murder is in there, and he's like, as in, thou shalt not. So you can't teach kids thou shalt not murder because that would be detrimental to their brains. But I guarantee you, all those transgender videos are up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And everything like that. And it's not even. It's very disingenuous because the guy that they put forward for the Google hearing is supposedly like a conservative. So they bring forward this patsy, right? Because Google is not conservative at all. The 88 executives gave to Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And Google itself, its parent company, Alphabet, was the #1 donator to the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Surprise.
I know. And so Prager University's videos are so powerful. Oh, you know what the Google executive said about Prager University when questioned about Prager University? He said, no, Prager University is a YouTube success story. Look how many videos they had.
That I did see.
Millions of views. Yeah, but you've curtailed them.
Right.
So the twists and the lies, the demonic lies that they sit down there, they
compile them. Yeah.
They sit down.
So for those of you that don't know, Lee and I used to work in as people doing R&D. We weren't doing the R&D, research and development, but we were consumers that would come in, and we did so many of these. I mean, we've probably done 100 at least, where they want your opinion because they need to get in the mind of what you think. And so they sit down in these big think tanks and they come up with what is going to be best consumed by the consumer, even if it's a line or a narrative that they want to disseminate amongst the public.
But the worst one, literally, the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not murder. Isn't that what you're supposed to teach children? These are the thinking. So anyways, it was very disingenuous that they did that. They lied through their teeth, and I was glad that they did that hearing. Speaking of crazy things against conservatives, this is Miss World America.
Okay, yeah.
Stripped Miss Michigan from her title because of insensitive political tweets and her refusing to wear a hijab on a leftist campus in 2016.
It was an event. It said leftist campus event.
Yeah. So this 20-year-old University of Michigan student posted screenshots of an email and text exchanges she had with this Miss World America director. In the exchanges, I think her name is Jack, continuously declares that there was a problem without explaining the situation to this worried Kathy Zhu. Finally, she revealed that one of the issues was a tweet in which Kathy Zhu declared that the majority of black deaths are caused by other black citizens. And then I read actually kind of perused the text message last night. Yeah. Then the Miss World organization sent Kathy an email demanding that she return her crown and her sash.
No way. As
well as remove any mention of having participated in Miss World America from all of her social media.
Oh my gosh. So she didn't win Miss World.
No, but she was Miss
She participated. Did she win Miss World America though?
I think Miss World America, you start in the you start in Miss America and then you go to the world.
These whole contests are ridiculous to start
with. I feel like, and the organization also took issue with an incident in which Kathy Zhu refused to allow an activist to put a hijab on her head. She responded by saying, "What is insensitive is that women in the Middle East are getting stoned to death for refusing to obey their husband's orders to wear hijabs. A Muslim woman tried to forcibly put a hijab on my head without permission. I tweeted about it on social media, and it got a lot of attention in the media. Almost everyone was supportive of me. Following her refusal to wear the hijab, angry Twitter users had attempted to get this Chinese-American student expelled from her university."
Unbelievable. So apparently
really
it's okay to have somebody force themselves into your space and on you.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel about hijab, which obviously she has her own opinions, but in that moment, you don't like people touching you.
But yeah, there's two things at issue here. Number
one, you're in my space. You're trying to put something on me.
Number two, it's a religious symbol that for a lot of
suppression.
Women. What if I tried to come and put a cross around somebody's neck?
Exactly. Oh my gosh, they would be apoplectic.
What if I refuse to put a cross around my neck?
Right, around someone else. If somebody was trying to put a cross around your neck, then then if you were trying to do it to somebody else and they refused, you would be the bad guy.
Exactly. Back to the Prager University. I wanted to play this here.
By Prager University on topics like the Ten Commandments. Another topic, as I understand it, that was restricted was one in which noted liberal Professor Alan Dershowitz, who was a professor of mine in law school, did a video for you, a historical account of Israel's founding. And as I understand it, YouTube restricted that video as well. Does YouTube ever explain why it is restricting these videos?
It explains nothing. This was the first explanation I heard, the incorporation of murder into the Ten Commandments.
Can you describe what the effect is when a video is placed on the restricted list? We heard the representative from Google say, "Oh, it's no big deal. It's just 2%. You should be just fine with it." What is the effect of Google arbitrarily?
Well, as I explained earlier, it can't be seen by vast numbers of parents have filters, totally understandably, given how much junk is on the internet. So this is what's so very important. It not only hurts us in that family can't see that video. It hurts us because then it is a statement by Google that Prager University produces videos on the moral level of pornography. I mean, that's and
there's no appeal, there's no remedy when
there is none.
Arbitrary power.
We have actually spoken to representatives of theirs that after they say algorithm, if we actually get someone on the phone, we have had humans review it at Google and keep it up. Why? That's community standards. Your video violated community standards. Well, how exactly does the founding of Israel by a Harvard law professor violate community standards? It just does.
Wow. Dennis Prager is a fantastic human being, by the way. He's so well-spoken, and, his voice commands respect, and what he says with it really does.
Okay. the tweet that started it all this week. Okay, are you guys ready? Because I think that you need to go put your seatbelts on. Because I wanted to do the Google hearing. It's really important. Kind of dull at some points. Kind of hard to get through. But I tried to bring the highlights to you. I did not want to bring you any Democrats, so they were all stupid. Siding with Google and China. However, the mudslinging, it was watching, trying to pin down Donald Trump is like trying to catch a pig in mud. Pig just gets wet and you just get muddy.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump picks up the mud and just starts throwing it when you try to catch him.
Yeah.
Now, we all know that
that's not how that saying goes.
Yeah, it is.
The pig gets angry and you get muddy.
Yeah, something like that. So Donald Trump started off this week with a world-shattering tweet. The Democrat congresswomen have been spewing some of the most vile, hateful, and disgusting things ever said by a politician in the House or Senate. And yet they get a free pass and a big embrace by the Democrat Party. Horrible. Anti-Israel. Now, I'll explain some of this in a minute. Anti-USA, pro-terrorist, and public shouting of the F word. Many of other terrible things. And the petrified Dems running for the hills. Why isn't the House voting to rebuke the filthy and hate-laced things that they have said? Because they are the radical left and the Democrats are afraid to take them on. Sad. Now, he had also tweeted, I don't know if I have the one, they should go home tweet, but that's what really set them off. If they don't like it here, I know what it was. He said, if they don't like it here, they should go back to their countries who are failed states, fix it, and then come back and tell us how it's done.
Exactly.
Now, the whole go home, and everybody, even conservatives, were all upset because they are home, blah, blah, blah. Ilhan Omar may not be home, baby. She certainly wasn't born here. And last night on Tucker, breaking news.
Tucker.
Breaking news.
Love him.
That real journalists, I'm going to show you the articles and everything, have pinned down that her last name isn't Omar. It is Elmi, the name of her supposed second husband on the marriage certificate. It's Elmi. And that Elmi is her brother, and she and her sisters, a couple of her sisters, were put in under the umbrella of the Omar family because they had asylum status. And the Hershey, Elmi Hershey.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's Elmi Hershey. Elmi, whichever. It's hard to keep track. Anyways, they got asylum in the UK, which is why he went back there.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Okay.
Now they have. There are numerous accounts of them being brothers and sisters, but the Somali community, you're not allowed to speak out because they'll hurt you. All right.
But okay, so you know how this is like playing telephone. Originally, when we heard about her having married her brother, this was months and months ago.
Yeah.
I thought that the story went, she had married her brother to get into the United States, and now it's seeming that that's not true. And so now I'm going back to square one, which was, why did you marry your brother?
Well, because he had asylum in the UK.
Okay.
And she had asylum here.
Okay.
And so he came here.
Okay.
And he went to school here. But then he went back to the UK.
Yeah.
And she says, there's a lot of different things in this thread that I'm going to show you. But she said that she lost contact with him in 2011. But there's pictures on social media of her with him in 2012. And then she said that she couldn't find him to get a divorce. So she finally got a divorce in 2017. Although she was married to somebody else, according to a faith tradition. But she says her faith tradition, she married the other guy. But this guy, the Elmi guy, the marriage certificate that they did get married was by a Christian minister. So if you're so into your faith, why would you have a Christian minister marry you?
Right.
Anyways, we are going to, this was rocking and rolling. You don't even know. So here's Donald Trump. He's discussing his original tweet, and he doubles down on the original tweet of the UK. If you don't want to be here, you can leave.
If you're not happy here, then you can leave. As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave with our country. And I think everybody in this audience, these are great manufacturers, great workers in our audience too. They brought a lot of their workers here. If you're not happy here, then you can leave. As far as I'm concerned, if you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave. And that's what I say all the time. That's what I said in a tweet. I guess some people think it's controversial. A lot of people love it, by the way. A lot of people love it. But if you're
A lot of people love it.
not happy in the U.S., if you're complaining all the time, very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now. Come back if you want. Don't come back. It's okay too. But if you're not happy, you can leave.
So he's sticking by what he said, sticking to his guns.
Well, that's just a very racist statement. Somebody that would say that. So Speaker Pelosi said, "Make America white again." Let me tell you, that's a very racist statement. I'm surprised she'd say that. John, go ahead. Well, they're very unhappy. I'm watching them. All they do is complain. So all I'm saying is, if they want to leave, they can leave, John. They can leave. I mean, I look at Omar. I don't know. I never met her. I hear the way she talks about Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda has killed many Americans. She said you can hold your chest out. You can, when I think of America, when I think of Al-Qaeda, I can hold my chest out.
It was the thing that was interesting in the class was every time the professor said Al-Qaeda, he sort of like his shoulders went up and
he's in command here.
Al-Qaeda, Hasbullah.
He's an expert.
It is that you don't say America with an intensity. You don't say England with an intensity.
Quiet.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
All right. So there's that.
Okay. This is good.
All right. So if you come after the president, the country, the flag, he's going to defend himself. What the squad, this is what they're calling the Justice League, doesn't like is that Donald Trump is enforcing the very laws that are on the books that were put there by Congress. Jason Chaffetz, and he says, go buy Jason's book.
Oh my gosh. That's a big plug for Jason.
Yeah. That's another story. Let me see. In the midst of all of this going on, wouldn't you know that in order to paint Donald Trump as a white supremacist, they bring on Richard Spencer.
Oh my gosh.
They gave him a microphone.
Oh no.
Do you know why they did? Because they have him on back pay. Because his whole life is ruined. He will never be the same person he could ever have been.
Yeah.
At some point, I think maybe he thought maybe they would get Donald Trump impeached and he could go back and say, I was just kidding. Ha ha ha. Can I live my life now? He literally has thrown his life down the rabbit hole because he's not a white supremacist. He's a paid actor to make Donald Trump look bad.
Yeah.
Hail our people, hail victory!
White nationalist Richard Spencer, who hailed Trump when he was first elected, is among those who are turning on Trump.
Many white nationalists will eat up this red meat that Donald Trump is throwing out there. I am not one of them. I recognize the con game that is going on.
They say Trump is all talk and no action on maintaining white dominance in America.
He gives us nothing outside of racist tweets. And by racist tweets, I mean tweets that are meaningless and cheap and express the kind of sentiments you might hear from your drunk uncle while he's watching Hannity.
Yes, that was Richard Spencer, the man who championed the 27...
Now, he really played his hand, I think, too much. He kind of showed his cards. He said he's turning on Trump because he obviously hates Trump. Yeah. So he has to come up with some way to try to paint Trump bad, but the best way to paint Trump bad is for him to be supporting him, but he just can't stomach it because he's a leftist. You can see it. I hate him. He's hated him from the very beginning.
Right.
He loves Obama. He's a leftist. He's so hardcore leftist that it bleeds through his body. He is... Everybody tried to say Richard Spencer supports Trump, white nationalists support Trump. He is not a diehard Trump supporter. I would know if there was a white supremacist. You could just tell a redneck out there waving his flag. Yeah, baby. You know what I mean? That guy is paid with his slick hair and his stupid suit. You could just see it all over his face. But he's like, we're turning on Trump because he's all talk and no actions. All he does is some tweets that mean nothing. So Trump isn't a racist. He's not doing anything to make this country a white nationalist.
Right.
Bingo! Oh my God! Did you just hear what he said?
I'm with you. Absolutely.
You're drunk uncle.
It's actually embarrassing that CNN has had to stoop this low to go back to their clown.
The way they had like that woman do the voiceover to make it sound like it's real news.
I know. Oh my gosh.
All right. So since the media refuses to provide any context, here is a thread of statements by the Socialist Squad. Here is Ilhan Omar. We're going to play it again.
And so it was the thing that was interesting in the class was
terrorism class.
Every time the professor said Al-Qaeda, he sort of like his shoulders went up and
he's in command here.
Al-Qaeda,
he's an expert.
Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha.
I remember when I was in college, I took a terrorism class. And
is that a such thing?
Yeah, there was.
So there is a lab for that?
There was a class that used.
Do you go to a lab?
No,
you go out a field trip.
You learned the ideology of.
I'm glad you do that.
And so it was the thing that was interesting in the class was every time the professor said Al-Qaeda, he sort of like his shoulders went up and
he's in command here.
Al-Qaeda,
he's an expert.
And it was,
what's his name? What his name on
we are
does he
not
live?
saying his name. You probably get to see him on CNN.
Yeah, of course. I love those guys.
But it is that you don't say America with an intensity. You don't say England with an intensity. You don't say the army with an intensity. But you say these names because you want that word to carry weight. You want it to leave something.
It has a cultural meaning, not just
exactly. So it's said with a deeper voice. So yes, it is.
But when a non-white commit a violence or misbehave, we condemn the whole culture. Mm-hmm. But when a white condemned, we just go to psychoanalysis that he didn't have a girlfriend when he was growing up.
White versus Muslim.
Right.
That is how they see the world. Do you understand? White, that's the way they see it.
Right. Which doesn't make any sense because it's not a matter of color of skin because many white people have white Muslims. You have religions of all. White people cover a wide span of
In my opinion, they just showed that they're racist and that they are supremacists. Yeah. And to them, real Muslims are not white.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you understand the way they say it?
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying not the other side, just something separate. And that is the fact that being white in and of itself doesn't make you go do things. So when he says you psychoanalyze, well, white is just like a very broad term. Okay, what religion was said white person? Because what are the political views? How were they raised? What makes a person do something so crazy?
Mm-hmm. It was like he's not capable of committing violence because he's white.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point. When you have an individual inside of in a Western society that goes on and does commit like mass murder, we have mass shootings that happen constantly here. We investigate that person and what has driven them to commit that act. When an act is committed by these Muslim, terrorists, what we investigate is that whole community. We investigate that whole faith. We investigate that whole society. And everyone is supposed to have some answer to why these people are doing this. When it is those individuals that people need to be investigating, it is their lives that needs to be.
But why is it that these Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah groups are groups of people? So when they get investigated, they're investigating these groups of people.
I do not.
Totally surprised.
I do not participate
you are a Shabab.
in their.
Well, Shabab is young.
It's young.
So, yeah, exactly. And you would say if you're part of Al-Qaeda, if you're part of Hezbollah, are you part of... So what most of these terrorists are linked to a cell and a larger group like
They're not
ISIS,
just individual crazed
ISIS
Muslims.
or Al-Qaeda. They are in part of a cell. They're in part of a group. So if there were KKK people, if there were white supremacists, if there's a group of people who are, part of something. So you're not investing in the whole community.
These two people are a little bit quick.
No, it's scary,
I mean,
actually.
This is like insanity.
All right, so here's Donald Trump.
What they did and the way they're treating Israel is a disgrace. But not only Israel, it's what they say about our country. It's my opinion they hate our country. And that's not good. It's not acceptable. Thank you very much, everybody.
It's not acceptable to hate our country, okay?
No, and you can't serve something that you hate. All right, speaking of hate.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, here is an RNC. The Republican National Committee releases a brutal new campaign highlighting the extreme rhetoric coming from Ilhan Omar, Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, who just gets to be like the sidekick.
Right.
She hasn't made... She gets to be seen with them, but not heard.
Right. Isn't she the tall black lady?
She's the black lady. The tall black lady. Anyways, it just so happens that they happen to be women of a darker shade, but they all happen to be part of the Justice Democrats, Socialist Communists. And the man who was shot after he tried to bomb the ICE facility was part of Antifa. He had a manifesto that said, we can't allow concentration camps in our country. So here is Ocasio-Cortez saying the United States is running concentration camps, and he literally bombed them. She is responsible for his death.
Oh,
he was a crazy guy.
Wow.
But she led him to... If you believed that there were concentration camps in your country, you put your life on the line. You would stop.
Yeah.
If the Jews were being murdered in gas chambers, I would go in, I would put my life on the line. We'd stop them. You know what I mean?
I agree.
The United States is running concentration camps on our southern border. Never again means something.
If this organization is as fascist as you have called it,
I've said it's fascist.
And you have said it's fascist, then why don't you adopt the stance to eliminate it?
Your colleague who was at the border with you compared the facilities to a concentration camp. Do you agree with that comparison? Absolutely.
You will see the light, and if you don't, we will bring the fire.
A car in the parking lot was torched, and investigators say the suspect threw flares at a propane tank, trying to make it explode.
They took down an American flag and a Colorado state flag, and instead, as you see in some of this video, they raised a Mexican flag.
We are learning new details about the man who threw explosive devices at an immigration detention center in Tacoma, Washington.
Will you condemn Antifa for attacking an ICE facility? Will you condemn the Antifa attack in Washington over the weekend? Will you condemn Antifa for the attack in Washington?
Wow. That is
So,
pretty powerful.
Mike Cernovich pointed out, don't deport Ilhan Omar yet. Make this last out just like you did with the Russian collusion.
Right.
At least through 2020.
Yeah.
Because the squad isn't the same without her. Because she has committed a lot of real crimes. And like really illegal things.
Right.
So she kind of is their anchor. She has, the Democrats did an internal poll that got leaked.
Oh boy.
AOC has a name recognition of 74%.
Okay.
But a positive whatever feeling about her at 22%.
Amongst Democrats.
22% are positive. Ilhan Omar, 9% positive amongst Democrats.
Wow. That's cool. That's good. Wow.
Yeah, you can read some comments if you want.
You know what? My brain is so fuzzy with Nemo and
okay, then don't.
Britt Boz says Michelle Lindsay Lohan black or brown yet? Isn't black or brown yet? She's a Muslim. She's she changes
really
every day.
not. Yeah.
I mean, she's straight. She's bi. She's homo.
I'm tired of slandering of America, and so
She's
is
Buddhist.
Congressman Dan Mauser.
Speaker, I rise today in opposition to House Resolution 489, the latest legislative attack on the president. Much like most of the ideas and comments coming from the leading members of the socialist left, yesterday's press conference was at best political theater. In the last few days, Democrat members of this House have attacked the president with claims of racism. Some have even said, and then walked back, similar comments referring to the Democrat House Speaker. None of those accusations are based in fact. As the representative of the people of the 9th Congressional District of Pennsylvania, I feel it is most important to address this matter and then move on to engage in the work and the matters of real substance and importance to the people of our country, rather than baseless name-calling and offensive lectures. The ongoing policy debate across the country will continue to be socialism versus American exceptionalism. The people will decide our direction. What has really happened here is that the president and his supporters have been forced to endure months of allegations of racism and concentration camp accusations. This slander, this ridiculous slander, does a disservice to our nation and the American people, and I, like many, am tired of it. I urge a no vote on the resolution aimed purely at harassing the President of the United States, and I yield back.
Nancy Pelosi got up, and it was mayhem, bedlam, mayhem, craziness. She called Trump a racist. They were supposed to just condemn the tweets, but instead it was a resolution calling Trump himself a racist.
And what were they going to do with this resolution, by the way?
It just was going to go on the record.
Okay.
It's just going to go on the record. So this is Terrence Williams putting out, why would a so-called racist invite me and hundreds of other black Americans to the White House?
We at the White House right now. White House. Look at all these recruiters turning around. Hey!
I hope he's okay. Didn't he have that really bad car?
He's better.
Good.
Yeah, he's better. So here's the thing. It's crazy because Donald Trump just wants anybody and everybody to support him. Whether they are black, whether they are white, whether they're Hispanic, whether they're anything. Donald Trump is an equal opportunity offender, and he's an equal opportunity lover. If you love him, he loves you. If you will work with him, he will work with you.
So, I mean, one of the things that bothered me about Trump in the beginning...
He's always tweeting about Kanye West.
Way early on was his affiliation with people like Al Franken.
I know.
And Jackson. I'm like... There are photos of him with them.
He was given an award by them.
I mean, seriously, it's like the black community loved Trump.
Everybody.
And Trump loved the black community.
And that was what some other black people were saying. It's like Trump used to be synonymous with, I want to be like Trump.
Every rap song has Trump in it in a positive light.
Right, exactly.
I mean, come on. This is absolute ridiculous. So you can't call him a racist.
Right.
You can dislike his policies. You can think he's a crummy person. I don't care. But you can't call him a racist.
I know the politics of Ilhan Omar. I know their backgrounds. I know where they're coming from.
And they are racist.
And if they want to go home, they want to change. See, I love my country. And I believe in this Christian founding of this country. And I'm not going to apologize. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. And they drag it through the mud.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to appreciate George Washington and just call him a dirty slave owner, if they're not going to appreciate Thomas Jefferson and his works, then you will not appreciate the Constitution. You will not appreciate the Declaration of Independence. And if doing so, then you cannot uphold our founding documents. You should definitely not be serving in our government.
I think that...
And you should not... If you don't appreciate that God inspired this country to become a more perfect union, a union that could come together on the principles of Christianity, that would be perfected on the principles of Christianity, getting better and better by the day, hopefully, then you should not be here.
I want to explain something to you guys to understand the way that our country was founded with the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights, with the Articles of Confederation, with all of our founding documents. It sets us up as a republic, and there is a reason why the justices of the Supreme Court are supposed to, now whether they do or not is up for, but they are legally bound to interpret the Constitution and every case that comes before them to make sure that it lines up with original intent.
Right.
And so every congressperson,
if you're going to change the original intent, you have to actually
amend the Bill of Rights, or you have to add to the Bill of Rights. You have to make an amendment to the Constitution.
Right.
And so there has been a disservice that has happened to children, and it started actually when I was a child, and that is touting America as a democracy where as we evolve as Americans and we want to change laws, then we can vote and change things. No, it's supposed to be very difficult in our country to change the foundation because our founders set it up to say this is the best way that our country is supposed to run.
If you can't say America's the best country it's ever been, if you can't say that you support the founding and you support the founders and you admire the founders, you shouldn't be in our government. You shouldn't be serving in our government.
Because these people have literally gotten in treasonously to go in and get rid of and wipe out our Constitution. They want to transform our nation to something completely different, which is why they openly talk about hating our country. So they're not representing you. They're representing their agenda.
I was happy to have Trump come and talk about Ilhan Omar and the squad. I don't think it was I know it's not. I know he's not a racist. So they got together. CNN got together. Actually, 8 Trump supporters to see if they still support Trump. Their answers are just they knocked it out of the park.
They're of course going to have their say. So we were curious whether the president's base was still behind him, particularly his female supporters. Did any object to his
Make sure they can see the video behind you.
This attack on the 4 female lawmakers, or is it all just politics, as Mike said earlier? 360's Randy Kay spoke with some of them in Dallas.
How many of you don't think what the president said was racist? Raise your hand.
These 8 Republican women from Dallas don't see anything wrong with President Trump telling 4 Democratic congresswomen to go back where they came from.
He was saying that if they hate America so much, because what we're seeing out of them and hearing out of them, they hate America. If it's so bad, there's a lot of places they can go.
I'm a brown-skinned woman. I am a legal immigrant. I agree with him.
You don't think that's racist to say that?
Not at all.
No, actually, I think it's just it's a demonstration of how their ideology spills over. Even though they're American now, so to speak, they're not acting American.
I'm glad that the president said what he said, because all they're doing is they're inciting hatred and division, and that's not what our country's about. It's not about that at all. And
isn't that what the president does with some of his own comments, his own racist comments?
But he didn't say anything about color.
We know the president is not racist. He loves people from, Hispanics, to black people, all across the board.
Let me just share with you the definition of racism from Merriam-Webster Dictionary.
Like they don't know. How condescending.
Race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. Based on that definition, do you not think what the president has been saying to these
No, he dated a black woman for 2 years. 2 of his wives are immigrants. He is not a xenophobic racist.
The black billionaire is endorsing President Trump.
Yeah.
How can you call him racist?
So these congressmen who said they ran for Congress, ran for office because they explicitly love this country, you're saying that's a lie.
So
yes.
You're saying they hate this country.
So Donald Trump says, I'm not a racist. When this interviewer is leading all these questions and somebody calls her out on it, because would you sit down and say, Donald Trump says he's not a racist? Yeah. Why would you believe that he's a racist if he says not a racist? She's saying, well, these women said that they love the country. Why would you doubt that?
Right.
Yes. Whoever wrote these questions up, it's clearly that they're very manipulative to accuse instead of extracting the truth.
It's a tactic.
Because when you say, don't you think he's racist? You're accusing us. You're accusing him.
I'm not accusing. I'm asking you what you think.
But you've been told. It's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the real issue. It has nothing to do with the premise of the issues here.
Exactly.
And whenever someone...
The color of the 4.
Why do you keep bringing it up?
Do you think it's just a coincidence that these 4 congresswomen that the president is going after, none of them are white?
Yes, but they're going after him.
I
don't think it matters. It's idiotic what they're saying. So it doesn't matter whether they're white, man, woman, brown, yellow, anything.
I wish that there was a white one that why are they not racist? How come they haven't befriended one of their white female congresswomen colleagues and let her join
because they won't.
That's a good point. They don't like white people. Come on. They're racist.
How many of you still plan to vote for President Trump?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Randy Kay, CNN.
I'm surprised they did that. I don't understand. Like, couldn't they have doctored that or just not even used it?
I'm sure they doctor some of the either better stuff out. But it was pretty cool. The questions were clearly leading. Just because he's...
Well, she just said some of his racist tweets.
Yeah.
Like, she just says them as a fact.
Yeah.
So here you are asking if you think that they're racist, but then you're actually saying that it's a fact that they are racist. And so, if they agree... Or if they disagree that Trump's tweets are racist, then obviously then they're racist too. And that's the way that the question was supposed to read.
Exactly.
Unstinking believable.
But those women did a good job.
They did. But I'm kind of... another thing that nobody called out, where is CNN located? What, California?
I have no... Probably New York.
New York, whatever. Why did they go to Texas and get a bunch of women that have accents that are white?
I know.
Why did you go to Texas? We've got 2 Ohio women that support Trump. You didn't come to Ohio where people don't have accents. It's this stereotype that they went to because they were trying to get women that would sound stupid.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Well, I just support Trump, just whatever he does.
Right, exactly.
You know, but those women surmounted their accents.
All right, we got Liz Cheney out of Wyoming, and she just destroys the left here. Just listen.
I wanted to talk about what's gone on over the last few days. I want to make absolutely clear that our opposition to our socialist colleagues has absolutely nothing to do with their gender, with their religion, or with their race. It has to do with the content of their policies. They're wrong when they attempt to impose the fraud of socialism on the American people. They're wrong when they pursue policies that would steal power from the American people and give that power to the government. They're wrong when they espouse and enable, and their leadership refuses to condemn, vile anti-Semitism. They're wrong when they rush to blame America first, when they fail to recognize that this is the greatest nation that has ever existed, the exceptional nation. And they're wrong when they fail to recognize that no people has ever lived in greater freedom. And then they go on and fail to provide the resources our men and women in uniform need to defend that freedom. Our colleagues, our socialist colleagues on the other side of the aisle, are wrong when they advocate abortion up until the moment of birth, including partial birth abortion, late-term abortion, and when they refuse to mandate care for babies who are born alive. Our colleagues are wrong when they say that we should open America's borders, abolish ICE, and abolish DHS. They're wrong when they advocate policies that would eliminate all private health insurance in this country, destroy Medicare, and force the American people to pay for free health care for illegal immigrants. They are wrong when they pursue policies like the one we're going to be voting on today that will destroy 4 million jobs for low-wage earners by mandating a federal $15 minimum wage. That is not compassion. That's a callousness that's born of ignorance. They're wrong when they say that their programs help people at the lower end of the economic spectrum. Every one of their socialist programs would create massive new government dependency and end the very economic growth we need to ensure everyone can prosper. Our colleagues are wrong when they advocate packing the Supreme Court and abolishing the Electoral College. And our colleagues are wrong when they tell Americans, as Congresswoman Presley did just last weekend, that any individual seat at the table is only valuable, only legitimate, if that person espouses some pre-approved set of beliefs deemed appropriate based on their religion or their gender or their race. When they say that, that is racist. So, no, our opposition to our colleagues' beliefs has absolutely nothing to do with race or gender or religion. We oppose them and their policies because their policies are dangerous and wrong and would destroy America. The issue here is the content of their policies, and we will continue to stand up and fight against what we know is wrong for this nation.
What's this lady's name?
She is Liz Cheney from Wyoming.
Wow, well said, Liz.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
Yes.
I'm really impressed with her.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good.
Well, she just summed it up. Did Trump tweet that out? He should. Trump tweet that out.
All right. In America, if you hate our country, you are free to leave. The simple fact of the matter is that I have a Charlie horse. Ow, 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 on the air. Ow, ow, from probably hiking.
Did you tell them about your hiking?
No. Ow. The four horsewomen think, they call them the four horsewomen of the apocalypse. It was, which one was it? We have a really funny representative.
They're not that powerful.
Anyways, he said they're the reason that they put directions on shampoo bottles.
Who said that?
One of our congressmen in Trump
that's so
quoted
funny.
him.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Four congressmen think that America is wicked in its origins. They think that America is not even more wicked now. That we are all that America is even more wicked now, and that we are all racist and evil. They're entitled to their opinion. They're Americans. Now I'm entitled to mine, and I just think they're left-wing cranks. They're the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle, and we should ignore them. The squad has moved. Senator John Kennedy, as he's quoting. The squad has moved the Democrat Party substantially left, and they are destroying the Democrat Party. I'm appalled that so many of our presidential candidates are falling all over themselves to agree with the four horsewomen of the apocalypse. I'm entitled to say that they're whack jobs. Louisiana Senator
John Kennedy. That is so fantastic.
This is so funny. So, all right. So we're going to move on a little bit more to a little deeper into Ilhan Omar here, because it's really, it's probably one of the most blatantly corrupt corruptions that we've seen in a politician in years.
Since Watergate.
Yeah, well, no. But there's been a lot. But she actually could possibly be deported or put in jail. I mean, this isn't Russian collusion. Just watch.
Democrats, media, and the Department of Justice have continually ignored strong
This is the evidence against
supporting the fact that Ilhan Omar may be directly involved in tax, marriage, and immigration fraud.
In 2002, Omar married Ahmed Hirsi in a religious ceremony. Hirsi is the father of Omar's 3 children, and is pictured often with Omar and their children on their campaign website.
In 2016, Minnesota journalist Scott Johnson received a tip about a post from a Somali community website containing marriage certificates alleging Omar married her brother, Elmi, in February 2009, in order for him to immigrate to the U.S. legally, despite the facts she'd been married to the father of her children, Hirsi, over a decade.
This clearly proved...
Supposedly, she married that guy in a religious ceremony, then divorced her in a religious ceremony, then married this other guy, which is her brother, in a regular ceremony with her certificate. Then she didn't even divorce him in 2017. And there's more.
That any such second marriage might be bigamous under Minnesota law, as well as fraudulent.
Later in August 2016, further investigations into legal documents and filings in Minnesota by journalist Priya Samsundar uncovered evidence supporting the allegation that Ilhan Omar married her brother, Ahmed Nursed Elmi, in 2009.
The 2009 marriage license to Elmi lists the same address as one filed for a Minnesota business 3 months later in May 2009 for One-to-One Cafe by Hirsi.
So, what I want to explain there, because the names get really mixed up. The marriage certificate had the address that her brother put, let's just call him her brother. The brother, his address on the marriage certificate
used
was
his
the
brother-in-law's.
No, was technically his brother-in-law's
cafe's address.
Exactly. They were living together, all 3 of them.
The father of Omar's 3 children.
That means Ilhan Omar was living with both her real husband Hirsi while still married to her brother Elmi.
High school record evidence also support the claim that Elmi is indeed her brother and graduated in 2003 from Arlington Senior High School in St. Paul, Minnesota.
So why is she pictured in high school with the guy that she supposedly later married? That's her brother.
Yeah.
With enrollment records that state he was born April 4th, 1985. The same birth date listed on Omar's 2009 marriage certificate to Elmi.
So, yeah, it's really crazy. And
No, I mean, so I think that because Kelly says she's a polygamous woman marrying men and incest, it's gross. I have a sneaking suspicion that she did not sleep with her brother. She only married him just to make him legal in the country. Okay, so there's not like, so yeah, it's still weird. It's fraud. Okay, but I don't think it's some sort of incestual.
Yeah, but it is.
It's weird and it's fraudulent. The fact that you would take advantage of marriage like that.
Right.
No wonder they don't hold marriage and
when they don't love our country.
Sanctity.
Yeah, they trick to get in here.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the fact that she was married to her brother. I know nothing about it. I hear she was married to her brother. You're asking me a question about it. I don't know, but I'm sure that somebody would be looking at that.
So let me just say, just from a personal standpoint, finding somebody to marry just for the sake of marriage, if you're willing to do that, is not difficult in this world. He went to an American high school and graduated from an American high school. And the fact that he couldn't find some American woman to marry, to make himself legal here, is very odd indeed. I mean, what, we're on a time crunch? I mean, you couldn't find anybody? You can't win them over with your personality? Not a single person? Not some, wallflower person?
Remember, Trump is being called a racist for saying they should go back home. Now listen.
2016, this election cycle, and you guys have the ability to make an impact on where our nation is headed. Not only here in the United States, but even in our nation back home.
In our nation back home.
She is a Somalian.
Yeah.
And that is her country. That's where her loyalties lie.
Yeah.
But she wants to make, changes here in America.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. All right. Crazy crazies.
I still have to, I have to put in this. This is actually really exciting to me. It's so much fun. For years, I'm 35 years old, and my mom has followed politics for as long as I can remember. And for years, it's been this back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. And, just trying to figure out who is honest in the midst of all of those corrupt people. What these socialists have done is an amazing thing. They have drawn a very clear line in the sand that says, this is our agenda, this is where we want to take the country, this is where we want to take the Democrat Party, and then you've got the Democrats that don't agree with them left going, what happened to our party? I mean, at least people like Mitch McConnell or, who's the other one that we like a lot with the accent, Leah? You want this seat, and I hope you never get it. Oh, what's his name? Grassley. No, not Grassley. He's the older one.
That was...
Shoot, what's his name? Anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about.
Lindsey Graham.
You've got these politicians that were just kind of moseying along for the past decade or two, just kind of being a politician. Mm-hmm. And now, because of Trump and because of libertarians and the righteous Christian base that has risen up, it's kind of woken these sleeping politicians. Oh, I'm a politician.
And kind of
That's
right. Dust him off the shelf.
I am a politician, and I'm going to defend our country, and I've been bought off like, the NASCAR, and now I'm not, and now I'm a righteous man, and give me a sword. Okay, that's what's separating these, the Republicans in the government versus the Democrats that are feeling like, well, where did everybody go? Mm-hmm. I can't go over there with those people, and I can't join the I think I might hang out with the Republicans because those people are crazy. And then you've got the, Democrats going, well, I could be a socialist. Mm-hmm. I could be a socialist. I'm inclusive. Let's take everybody's money. And I want to be with the cool kids. And it's exactly completely divided the Democrat Party. And it's causing regular old-fashioned Democrats to hop the aisle. Mm-hmm. Okay, to have to join
the Trump they hate.
I mean, it's like, seriously, and I'm not just talking about the politicians. I'm talking about voters in general. None of these Democrat voters go and look at these women and go, now that is the future of the Democrat Party. That is the future of America. These centrists, I can't, we've talked about this before. I don't understand the plan for 2020. Because Biden was all they had, and that's skimming the bottom of the barrel.
I know.
So now that Biden is out, and he is pretty much out, Now that Biden is out, it's like, you got nobody. Are you really trying to win? So their plan...
Are you really going to have President Pocahontas? Because Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren are the ones that are polling like higher.
If they assassinate Trump politically or physically, another Republican will rise up and get the seat. There is no way that the socialists are going to win. No way, because Trump's base is far too fired up, and it would be impossible.
So, you guys need to go to Powerline blog, David Steinberg, all right? B-E-R-G. He has been doing article after article about Ilhan Omar. He has a fifth one. He titles it Meet Leila Elmi, the missing link showing Ilhan Omar married her brother. And he really goes in deep and explains everything. So you can follow this thread and you can follow the articles. But it's pretty. He puts together a lot, and he puts together here pre-asylum. You had the Elmies. I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't.
Really
but
small.
You had the father, Elmi Mohammed, and then you had the children Ilhan. Okay, then you have these Omars, right? The family of Somali heritage living in near Virginia. So somehow the Elmies go. The Omars go to the United States. But the Elmies join these Omars, and then half of the Elmies go to the United States, and half the Elmies go to the United Kingdom. Then they both come into North Dakota to go to college, and then finally they're in Minnesota, where the above chart summarizes how multiple sources in the Minneapolis Somali community describe key events in the life of Ilhan Nur Said Elmi. Her name is actually... sources say Ilhan Nur Said Elmi. So, confirming some of the above information as it might appear on their 1995 U.S. immigration papers is not difficult. A basic background search shows that Nur Omar Mohammed, Ilhan Abdullah Omar, and Sahor Noor all received Social Security numbers in 95 or 96 in Virginia. Verified address vectors show adult members of the Omars living at 3 addresses in Arlington. These different homes. The United Kingdom records of relevant individuals are similar, easy to find. It says there appears to be only one Leila Nur Said Elmi and only one Mohammed Nur Said Elmi and only one Ahmed. So Sarah Noor is the only person Ilhan Omar has ever publicly identified as her sister. Ilhan and Sarah have also publicly and often referred to the same man as their father. They both identify this man as Nur Said, this guy right here. And the above image is a screenshot of Sarah Noor's confirmed Facebook account. And it says this screenshot is of his current Facebook account. As of this article's publication, it is active. Let's see. 2018, I published a series of articles investigating Ilhan's past. This account name changed from Leila Elmi to Leila Salami. However, the URL did not change. It still refers to her as Elmi. Below, see 1997 marriage certificate for the only Leila Nur Said Elmi listed in the United Kingdom. He says, I retrieved this certified copy from a government records in London. So it says that Leila attests that her father's name is Nur Said Elmi. So far, they have verifiable evidence that Ilhan Abdullah Omar, Sahara Noor, and Leila Nur and Said Elmi, referring to their respective fathers as Nur Said or Nur Said Elmi. So they all refer to their father as like the same name. So you can go through and you could read this. There's a lot of pictures. There's a lot of social media posts. And it says, I love my sisters with Leila Elmi and Ilhan in black. And but she's living in the United Kingdom. And then you have this picture. Further, the above post with the hashtag London trip hashtag depicts Ilhan Omar's infamous 2015 trip to the UK. This is the same trip on which Ilhan was photographed with Nur Said Elmi himself. This is the guy who she supposedly married, but was really her brother, but really divorced him and couldn't find him. But here is the picture of him right here in 2015. Okay?
Wow. And there he is again.
Yeah, and then below, see one more piece of evidence establishing Leila Elmi as Ilhan's sister. This post is currently live, and I've archived it. So, if Elmi says that he's sisters with Leila, and Leila is sisters with Ilhan, then they're brother and sister. Do you see?
I don't understand why there's a question here, though. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
I guess.
With all the name changing, I guess, is the... But the fact of the matter is that the names, if you follow the records, the names and the pictures do line up. It doesn't matter if you change your name. If I change my name to, Sarah Smith, I'm still Michelle Svensson. I mean, that's just a fact. It doesn't matter. You just have to follow the...
So she made a police report after being harassed by a cab driver and claimed the cab driver called her ISIS and threatened to remove her hijab. Days later, she filed a police report and said that she was with her sister, but that name has been redacted. But if it was her sister living in the UK and her other sister in the United States, it's so crazy. All these things that go together. You just have to read it. It is actually, I think, linked under Tucker Carlson.
Cool.
So, anyways, there's verifiable evidence that Ilhan Omar, Sahara Noor, Leila Elmi are siblings with a father named Nursid Elmi. All right, so we're going to move on from there, but it's absolutely crazy. Let's see.
Well, and the guy has the same birthday. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you get away from that?
Mm-hmm. So these women she was also asked, will you disavow Antifa? No. I could go on about Ilhan Omar, but actually Tucker does a good job of it, so I don't have to. Angela Merkel, Justin Trudeau, back the squad over Trump. No kidding.
Oh my gosh. Well, Angela Merkel's standing on shaky ground anyway. Ching.
Yeah, that was a really good joke.
I'm really funny. Thank you. I'll be here all week.
All right, so a large group of 47 migrants violently rushed an international port of entry near McAllen, Texas, and assaulted officers in an attempt to illegally enter the country. It was this shortly on Friday this morning at the Far International Bridge, where a group of approximately 47 undocumented migrants tried to rush the border because, hey, I'm going to be a really good person once I'm in, but I'm going to hurt, injure people on my way in. Absolutely crazy.
Now, Trump did sign into law stating that if you are trying to come here for asylum, you actually have to apply for asylum at the very first potential country that will receive you. Mm-hmm. You can't just come to America, right? You can't just choose, I need asylum, but I'm going to skip these two countries in between and head straight for America.
And that's the thing. Suddenly, Trump signs that into law and it's already being challenged. But suddenly he makes these tweets and nobody's talking about this. And Tim Pool's like, I believe that the tweets that Trump... Tim Pool put this out there and really talking about Trump. It looked really like a bad day for Trump after the racist tweets. They're supposedly racist tweets.
Oh my
gosh.
Weren't.
But then even Vox, the left-wing media said, oh my gosh, look what happened. The squad had called Nancy Pelosi racist. And what it did was it actually caused Nancy Pelosi to have to go... kind of groveling and support them, and even though they're calling her names, to make them the face of the Democratic Party. And it was actually a smart move by Trump. But an even deeper thing is that everybody started talking about that petty politics. We're even talking about it, and like Michelle pointed out, and by the way, they would literally end asylum, period. If you're going through a country that allows asylum, that's a safe country, then your asylum ticket is ended.
Yeah.
And then nobody can come in to the country.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea. Of course, it will be challenged, and I don't know if it will hold up. But we'll see. I want to play this video here by Jim Jordan about how crazy the left is now.
A problem that doesn't align with their politics, they look for someone to blame.
I love Jim Jordan. He's from Ohio, by the way.
Yeah.
Who else but the President of the United States and the hardworking men and women who work tirelessly every day trying to secure...
Come on, Jimmy.
...border. The comments from Democrats in Congress, I think, only serve to demean the public service of our brave Border Patrol employees and, frankly, and this is important, to spark unnecessary outrage. Think about what we've heard from them. Abolish ICE. Abolish DHS? The entire department? Walls are immoral, the Speaker of the House said, even though there's a wall in her state. Non-citizens should be able to vote. Taxpayers should finance health care for all illegals. Concentration camps. They've called detention facilities concentration camps. Earlier this week, self-proclaimed member of Antifa showed up at an ICE detention center outside of Seattle.
Did you cover
set
this yet?
cars on fire,
We talked about it, yeah.
and attempted to burn down the building. In his written manifesto, this Antifa member wrote that he felt it was necessary to take action against these, quote, concentration camps. Not one single so-called cage has been constructed by the Trump administration. Not one. During the presidency of Barack Obama, we didn't see outrage from the Democrats then. We didn't see prominent Democrat members of Congress condemning the, quote, concentration camps and, quote, torture then. Again, President Trump has not built a single cage. The cages you see in the news and on Twitter were constructed by President Obama's administration. In fact, the only thing the Trump administration has used chain link fence for is one temporary facility through which immigrants pass when they initially come and they're getting screened. The detention facilities that the Trump administration built are all air-conditioned, have fresh water, and supplies and folks trained to administer health care and those supplies.
Unbelievable.
You would never know that and listen to the Democrats.
Concentration.
After months of the administration...
It's really sad to think about that she would be comparing air-conditioned facilities to concentration camps.
They're getting
highlighting the crisis at the border and making urgent calls for more funding. It wasn't until just before July 4th.
Clothes.
That House Democrats finally agreed to pass the $4.6 billion emergency border funding bill to provide some resources needed at the border. And despite the size and scope of the crisis, some Democrats still choose not to support this bill, choosing instead to play politics with the border rather than work on the solutions that we all know need to happen. Fabricating stories of cruelty and besmirching the hardworking civil servants protecting the border and providing humanitarian assistance does nothing to help solve the problem. And putting a Band-Aid over the border crisis does not fix the root causes. Democrats are serious. If they're serious about solving the border crisis, they must address, as I said before, the Flores settlement agreement, asylum loopholes, and the other laws and court decisions that incentivize aliens to make the dangerous journey to the United States.
And I've said this from the very beginning. When Donald Trump was elected, illegal crossings went down, but then the left was like, no, 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 come on in, come on in. And then the border crossings went up and up and up and up and up because they kept promising more and more stuff, free healthcare, free this, free that. And it was absolutely insane. They want them in here, by the way.
Well, it's not only that they want them in here, but the reason why they say they want to abolish ICE, I can speak, and the Department of Homeland Security.
Let's abolish ICE.
And all of the avenues with which you need to go through in order to get, when I go to ride a roller coaster at an amusement park, I have to go through a line. Yeah. And a lot of times they take you through these poles because if you want to get somewhere, you have to wait in line. But what the Democrats want is for there to be no line. And for anybody to be able to come into our country.
There's sometimes when that line is so filled and the park's going to close at a certain time that they cut off the line.
Yeah. But the point is that the Democrats, I don't know why they aren't just coming out and saying this, because they are coming out and saying this, and that is they want no borders, they want no walls, they want no processing, they want people to be able to fly from anywhere in the world down to Mexico and to be able to enter into our country and become an American citizen freely. That's what they want. When they say they want open borders, they literally mean they want open borders. They don't want anybody to be processed. They don't want anybody to have to go through you want to enter into America, it's a free-for-all. You know what happens? Looting, chaos. I mean, just insanity, anarchy. I mean, you can't even imagine. This is what they want, though. That is exactly what they want. They want a free-for-all coming into America. Because otherwise, if they really wanted things to be handled properly, and sound-minded, halfway decent Democrats, not even sound-minded, any Democrat prior to Trump knew this. There were people that were standing for, we could use a wall. Yeah, we want to fund ICE. Yeah, we have to protect our borders. Obama is quoted as saying it several times. Hillary Clinton is quoted as saying it several times. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they are all quoted as having said that we do have an issue at our border and we need to make sure that it's safe and that it happens in an orderly fashion. But now they want to get rid of all of that. It's pure chaos. And do you know why? Because they haven't got the votes of the American people. So the only way that they are going to overthrow America and abolish the Constitution is by bringing in as many illegal people as they can, by promising them stuff, and by planting all the religion that shall not be named in Michigan and Minnesota and breeding. That's their plan.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of crazy leftists eating each other, this woman here was the head of Planned Parenthood until they asked her to step down. Now, they asked her to step down because this one lady refused to use trans inclusive language, for example, saying people instead of women, telling staff that she believed talking about transgender issues would isolate people in the Midwest, and she refused to say that men could have babies too. So they made her step down. The left is eating itself.
That's good. This is good news, though. They've gotten to the point where they're so exclusive that you have to toe every possible line that even if you barely misstep, you're kicked off the team. Well, I got to tell you, there's power in numbers, and they are alienating every possible number that they can, and they're just leaving everybody like on the outside, and then people don't like to be on the outside of anything, so they find somewhere else to join. Come on over, baby.
Okay.
We got plenty of room.
I got some good news. This could actually turn out to be really good and to really expose the left.
Okay.
Because Ted Cruz and Bill Cassidy from Louisiana they put forth a bill that would properly identify Antifa as domestic terrorists.
Nice.
Introduced Thursday, the resolution defines Antifa as a movement that intentionally combines violence with the group's alt-left positions and represents opposition to the democratic ideals of peaceful assembly and free speech for all. The measure then lists several examples of Antifa behavior, including assaulting conservative journalist Andy Ngo in February and June, putting him in the hospital, doxing ICE employees, confronting an ICE officer when he went to pick up his daughter from summer camp, as well as plastering his name and photo on flyers outside of his home, labeling him as part of the Gestapo.
Oh my gosh.
Explicitly rejecting the authority of law enforcement to protect free speech and to stop acts of violence.
Wow.
After Andy Ngo was beaten and robbed by members of Portland's Antifa police cell, a GoFundMe established for the journalist raised almost $200,000 out of his original $50,000 goal for him. Good for him. As noted by The Blaze, however, labeling Antifa as domestic terrorists may also require an entirely new law. Federal law does not have the same clear-cut designations for domestic terrorism organizations that it does for foreign terror organizations. There are federal law processes for designating foreign and international terrorism because defending against foreign threats to national security is primary to a federal responsibility, McCarthy explained, because foreign operatives have fewer civil rights protections. Portland, meanwhile, is mulling a ban on wearing masks at protests in an effort to crack down on Antifa violence.
Wow.
So you're going to see people on the line saying whether they support Antifa or not.
Yeah.
Now, the guy behind the Storm Area 1 page worried about a visit from the FBI. So,
this is so funny.
There are plans to storm Area 51 in search of aliens on September 20th that started out on Facebook as a kind of a joke, which spiraled out of control, according to the guy who created the event.
It's so funny.
He says, I posted it on June 27th. It was kind of a joke. And then it waited for like 3 days and like 40 people, and then just completely took off. And out of nowhere, it's pretty wild. Now over 1.7 million people have signed up for the Facebook event, with another 1.3 million people having expressed interest in the event. Roberts, who had initially communicated with the National Public Radio anonymously via Facebook Messenger, said he was worried that the FBI would show up at his house.
Now, hang on a second, though, because let's be real about this. Regardless of whether you think that there is anything of significance in Area 51, I think this is a bad plan. Like, I want to appeal to you, millions of people.
I don't want you to go.
I think that if this is happening, then there are going to be like tanks and guns and things like that set up, and people are going to get hurt. All right, there is nothing at Area 51, even if it is aliens. Even if it is aliens, for you to risk your life over.
Yeah, okay, so I guess
it's not like you're rescuing children or something, okay?
So I guess Joe Rogan interviewed this Area 51 whistleblower, Bob Lauser, and filmmaker Jeremy Corbell. During the interview, Lauser claims to have been involved in all types of alien matters while working at a branch of Area 51 known as S4, where he was tasked with reverse engineering the propulsion system of one of the 9 flying saucers kept at the base.
No.
Lazar said that said this of the inside of a UFO. It's a very ominous feeling because everything is one color. It's like a dark pewter color. There are no right angles anywhere. It's as if someone took a model and fashioned it out of wax and then heated it just for a short time and everything melted. Everything looks like it's fused together. Everything has a radius, a curvature, where two items meet. It's a really weird thing to look into. So here's this guy. You can watch the entire
2, 1,
craziness.
Boom. And we're live.
on
First
Joe.
of all, cheers, gentlemen. Let's have a little toast. Relax. Bob, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I understand that you've told this story many, many times. You've been grilled many, many times, and it's very stressful for you, so I really, really appreciate your time. For people who don't know the story, there is a documentary. Jeremy Corbell has a documentary out right now. It's called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and UFOs.
And Flying Saucers.
And Flying Saucers.
Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers.
Okay. Yeah. I first heard your story decades ago. I told you last night when we went out to dinner. I've seen pretty much every interview you've ever given. I've followed the story incredibly closely. Mm-hmm. But for people who don't know the story, let's give them the bullet points.
I can't.
You used to work at Area 51. And Area 51, you went like, huh?
Well, we want to be accurate.
Okay.
Area S4.
S4. Okay.
It's about 15 miles south of Area 51.
Okay.
But,
you worked in how would you describe it?
I guess within the Area 51 compound. You can call that a subset of Area 51.
And you got that job. Before that, you were working...
Before that, I had worked at Los Alamos
right.
National Labs in New Mexico.
And you were involved in what kind of work?
Nuclear weapon development, physics. I mean, they do everything there.
So how do they approach you to say, hey, Bob, why don't you come on out to the Nevada desert?
So you can watch this, and I'm sure it's very interesting, and I'm sure he smoked a lot of pot. So Pink 7 says, do you girls think that Bob is a liar? Yes. Absolutely is. He's probably like, I don't know if he's delusional, like high, because like sometimes you can see things and be part of things that seem real.
Right.
And other times you can be just a plant. Like, go and tell him this.
Yeah.
And we won't say anything. We won't do anything. Like,
And then there's another, idea beyond that, and that is that he is a bold-faced liar, and he just had the job there and thought to himself, you know what, I could make myself famous doing this.
I could do a book. I could
do a
money.
book. I mean, it's an incredible shtick.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what he did, but I don't think that what he is saying is true, whether he thinks it's true or not. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so we got to get going, but I want to sum this up by saying, stay cool this weekend. Dangerous heat wave is expected to hit much of the United States this weekend, stretching from the plains to the Midwest.
Stay inside
all the
if
way
you can.
To the East Coast. The National Weather Service has issued an excessive heat warning for the middle of America all the way to the East Coast. We're experiencing the hottest weather that we've experienced since 2012. It's not Armageddon. It's been hot like this before. It'll be hot like this again. I lived in this kind of heat in Oklahoma for 4 or 5 summers, and it was excruciating. I think it was 4 summers, but you get used to it. It's like a frog in boiling water. You just spend a lot of time in air conditioning. The difference between that and here is it does kind of cool down here at night, whereas when it doesn't get below 90 at night, or it's like 88 is the low, it's just like there's no break.
We went camping once, and it was
in August.
It was like 5 a.m. and we finally got up and left because it was so hot in our tent. Like, we couldn't sleep all night. We weren't used to that. In Ohio at night, sometimes you need a jacket.
I've never experienced that. If any time I've ever camped in Ohio,
right,
it's always been that you would wake up with a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Or something, especially in August, or a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It was always cooler in the morning. And even in Kentucky, it was always nice and cool. You could always sleep in a cabin. It was never.
I want to debunk the fact that we don't believe in climate change, because we do believe in the climate changing. We believe that the climate changes periodically. Every once in a while you get, whatever, it happens. It gets hot, it gets cool, you have a rainy season, you have a snowy season, you have a dry season. These things happen We've only been monitoring the weather this closely for a couple of 100 years. I mean, they've always monitored weather, but I mean to have the data of daily, things like that. But for our conspiracy theorists, Patriot Gallery would tell you that a lot of these extremities are probably due to them manufacturing weather wherever it's at, and then it shifts what happens. It's unnatural, and these weather patterns flow in streams. Okay, it's a force. One pattern forces this one this way and this. So if they mess with the pattern over here in Japan for the Seoul Olympics to create snow, it's going to shift everything and throw it out of whack because it's an unnatural. It's the butterfly effect of weather engineering. They actually do engineer the weather. Our theory is that even if you don't believe in cloud seeding and things like that they do with the airplanes, they do admittedly manufacture weather. And so I think that it does shift.
And here's another thing to consider. There is a man-made climate change that no one wants to look at because it would mean you'd have to stop flying. Airplanes, some do admit the chemtrails with chemicals, but when I was a kid, I looked up in the sky, and everybody, and I know a lot of the chemtrail people want to be like, oh, it's chem. It doesn't matter what it is. Because when you look at the sky and you do see all the crisscrosses and everything like that in the cloud, they are cloud seeding in a way because it is moisture vapor coming out. But what it does and the effect of the atmosphere with the sun, and you're not getting all the sun's rays, and you're getting these diffused rays, but it's not natural, it's not right. You are messing with the climate. And so I would say ground all the airplanes, and you'd see significant changes. So there are some weather modifications that is happening just from air flights, you know.
But AOC wants to ground all planes.
We do know that smog is a real thing. We do know that combustible engines...
But that affects our health.
But it does affect the climate, and it does affect the
environment. It affects the climate and the environment because our climate is also tied to the plants. And so when the plants are unhealthy, then it's going to affect... So there is a truth to what they are saying, okay? We're not actually arguing that, but at the same time... It's there. The answer is the reason they have come up with this answer is for via control. Okay. It's not for the right reasons. But the climate is changing. We are damaging the planet, just damaging the planet. Climate change.
I hate the word climate changing because it's climate's always changing.
They've touted these California fires. There were California fires in the 1900s,
and there are the planet is actually colder now than it was in the Ice Age. If you look in the Arctic and you dig it up that ice, you're going to see tropical plants at both poles. Where did the ice come from? Hello, you're worried about melting ice caps and polar bears. Well, polar bears became polar bears, but because they... And I'm not going to use the word evolve, but I'm going to believe the word change, because we as Christians actually do believe change in species adapting over time and breeding to have different...
And we are moving farther away from the sun. We have been since God created the planet. And that's actually one theory against evolution, by the way, because at the rate that the Earth is moving away from the sun, if you go back millions and millions of years from where it would have started, it never would have happened. It would have been too hot. It would have burnt up. There would be nothing. Okay, it's too hot for life to happen where they said that it was, because our Earth is moving away from
But this is a good article I think Brian shared with me. Bombshell claims scientists find man-made climate change doesn't exist in practice. A new scientific study could bust wide open deeply flawed fundamental assumptions underlying controversial climate legislation.
I'll be darned.
And initiatives such as the Green New Deal, namely the degree to which the climate change is driven by natural phenomena versus man-made issues measured as carbon footprint. Scientists in Finland found practically no anthropogenic man-made climate change after a series of studies. During the last 100 years, the temperature has increased by 0.1 degrees Celsius because of carbon dioxide. The human contribution was about 0.01% Celsius, the Finnish researchers bluntly state in one of the series of papers. This has been collaborated by a team at Kobe University in Japan. which has furthered the Finnish researchers' theory. New evidence suggests that high-energy particles from space, known as a galactic cosmic rays, affect the Earth's climate by increasing cloud cover, causing an umbrella effect. And I believe it's an airplane. So, but just published study, the just published study has found a summary of which was released in the journal Science Daily. The findings are hugely significant, giving this umbrella effect an entirely natural occurrence, could be the prime driver of climate warming and not man-made factors. The scientists involved in the study are most concerned with the fact that the current climate models driving the political side of the debate, most notably the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, on climate sensitivity scale, failed to incorporate this crucial and potentially central variable of increased cloud cover. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has discussed the impact of cloud cover on climate in their evaluations, but this phenomenon has never been considered in climate predictions due to the insufficient physical understanding of it. This study provides an opportunity to rethink the impact of clouds on climate. When galactic cosmic rays increase, so do low clouds. When cosmic rays decrease, clouds do as well, so climate warming may be caused by an opposite umbrella effect. In their related paper, aptly titled No Experimental Evidence for the Significant Anthropogenic Man-Made Climate Change, the Finnish scientists find that low cloud cover practically controls global temperatures, but that only a small part of the increased carbon dioxide concentration is man-made. And then he says, we have proven that the GCM models used in the report cannot compute correctly the natural component, including in the observed global temperature. The reason is that the models fail to derive the influences of the low cloud cover fraction on the global temperature, and a too small natural component results in a too large portion for the contribution of the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. So because the man-made portion of the increased CO2 is less than 10%, we have practically no man-made climate change. The low clouds control mainly the global temperature.
So Barbaza says, Michelle, the Earth is heating up because we are coming out of an ice age 10,000 years ago.
And that is true. That is true too. There's part of that. All right, so I'm going to finish with this because you always need a prayer to end on.
Okay.
So we're going to end with this prayer.
Aww.
The House.
Oh yeah, this was so great.
The House chaplain,
no,
after
awesome.
Nancy Pelosi. There was more to the Nancy Pelosi gaffe. She called Trump a racist, and then a Republican called her out and said, opened his little book and said, under House rules, you can't. Your words have to be struck, right? And because you can't call, it's a Jefferson rules. You can't disparage and call the president a racist on the House floor. And she was supposed to not be able to speak the rest of the day because she did. And she said, well, I cleared my things with the whatever, they have a parliamentarian that judges these books. They have a little book. They go through the things you can say and things. You're not supposed to be able to disparage another congressperson or the president on the floor.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, and they quote that so often when it's against them.
I know, exactly.
You can't disparage me.
Right. So what that means is that person who does that, their words have to be struck and then wiped from the record, and then
they're on a gag order for the
rest of the day. And we know this from John Quincy had a gag order against him. He wasn't allowed to speak.
Yep.
And so Nancy Pelosi, they voted on it. The House voted to let her words stand, and she was able to come back that day.
But you can't do that.
And they went ahead and voted against Trump and with this resolution disparaging Trump.
Wow.
So you have House Chaplain Pat Conroy opened a prayer as an exorcism. And so we're going to end with his prayer.
I like it.
As an exorcism.
It was good.
To the entire nation.
Let's
it's absolutely powerful. I love this guy. I don't even know who he is. I think he's a Catholic. He might even be a Jesuit for all I know. I think he is. Here we go.
We give you thanks, O God,
for
giving us another day.
Amen.
This has been a difficult and contentious week in which darker spirits seem to have been at play in the people's house. In your most holy name, I now cast out all spirits of darkness from this chamber.
Bang, baby.
Spirits not from you.
So great. In the name of Jesus.
I cast out the spirit of discouragement, which deadens the hope of those who are of good will. I cast out the spirit of petty divisiveness, which clouds the sense and the desire to be of fruitful productivity in addressing the issues more appropriately before this House. I cast out any sadness brought on by the frustration of dealing with matters detrimental to the honorable work each member has been called to engage in. Pour out, O Lord, your sacred oil, as you did upon Aaron of old. Anoint your servants here in the house with a healing balm to comfort and renew the souls of all in this assembly. May your spirit of wisdom and patience descend upon all, so that any spirit of darkness might have no place in our midst. Rather, let your spirit of comity, of brother and sisterhood, and love of our nation and of all colleagues in this chamber empower our better angels to be at play in the common work to be done for the benefit of all your people. May all that is done within the people's house be for your greater honor and glory. Amen.
Amen. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So the birthday girl, Maia, had asked for a song. We need to go. And normally I actually probably would acquiesce to your request. But Leah's going to go out hiking, probably looking for Nemo some more. I'm going to go do a pet visit. And I do want to let you all know. We do need to move the chickens. If you have sent me a message on Resistance Chicks, in an email, on Facebook, whatever, however you normally get a hold of me, you as viewers, and we have not responded, you need to understand. We do have our cell phones where we can take the little box with us, but sometimes you're just so focused on life that you can't focus on anything else. And so if it's not that we are ignoring people, well, it is. Yes, we are ignoring you. We are ignoring anything but what life demands of us right now, and I apologize for that.
We always seem to have something going.
But
I wanted to do a video on Wednesday and Thursday about all this, but I'm glad that I brought it to you now. You guys are really important to us. We're happy to come here on Saturday, but say a little prayer for us. On Friday. If you wouldn't mind. Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding you. We are literally we need to find
Nemo. It has had over 750 shares on Facebook. Yeah. And that's just for our town. Okay. I don't know how many people we even have in our town that are on Facebook. And so the fact that nobody has seen him tells us he's in those woods somewhere. So we're going to keep hiking and we're going to keep trucking along, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to try and get sleep. We're going to try to eat in the middle of all that, but it is difficult. So we were almost canceled. I told Leah, I said, let's just not do the show. And she said, the show must go on.
I really wanted to talk about this stuff, and there's only so much you can do during the day. There's only so much you can do. It's like 5
I've been wanting to do a Bible study for 3 or 4 weeks. I wake up every day thinking, man, maybe today's the day I get to do the Bible study, because I really enjoy doing those with you. So pray for Kelly. She's, from what I've been gathering in the chat here, she's been having some operations and issues.
Oh,
so,
wow, okay.
Kelly, our prayers are with you. Thank you to all of our moderators. I haven't thanked you guys in a while, but we're so glad that you help us out. I don't moderate really anymore at all. I haven't done that in forever. Patriot Gallery's been doing dishes, so she hasn't been moderating either. So thank you to all of you guys. Thank you to the viewers. We're so glad that you're here, that you find us, because you obviously have to diligently seek us out and find us to be able to watch us on Fridays and Sundays. So thank you for that. 107 Milford, Ohio 45150. If you send us your stuff, we will read them on air. I haven't checked it in a while. I need to go and do that. So we love you. God loves you. God bless. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
Ilhan Omar married her brother.
And that's
which
true.
she did.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Good night, guys. God bless.
Let's go.